Hello, and thank you for taking time this weekend to join us here on KREM 2 News. I'm Cody Proctor, and this is the KREM 2 News Week in Review. We know life gets busy, and it can be tough to keep up with all of the news. So let's get you updated on some of the headlines from this past week.
Yeah, hours after SREC's board voted to cut ties with the city, Mayor Lisa Brown responded, telling county commissioners and the board the city won't accept the termination. Inside a Maribel Parkway building, Spokane's 911 dispatchers are prepping for a new year in a new home.
In our current facility, we're separated, and so bringing them together is also going to really help.
But Executive Director Lori Markham is anticipating another separation. SREC's board voted Thursday to cut ties with the city of Spokane.
And ultimately, their perspective is that they have a large population. They should have a lot of the say in what's happening, and more so than others.
Mayor Lisa Brown says SREC's putting lives at risk, and she won't let it happen. At least not until the two sides finalize a transition plan and resolve tax apportionment. Brown says that could take up to 18 months. SREC's giving the city 6 months. Spokane will have to dispatch its own firefighters, just like it does with police, starting in January.
Having the city of Spokane become a primary PSAP, which means that they put up a geofence around the city. So when you call 911, if you're in the city, that call will direct to the city of Spokane.
Markham says negotiation failures came down to finances and control. City leaders wanted more representation on SREC's board, she says, and didn't agree with bylaws that bar political figures from the governing body.
The whole entire purpose of this agency is to support public safety, should be made of those that are subject matter experts and public safety officials.
Brown's demanding the two sides meet before July 15th.
We're looking forward to the move. And
Markham says even with the relocation and the contract shakeup, 911 callers won't experience any disruptions or delays.
We will always make sure that that phone is answered.
Now, with this letter coming out, we still don't know what will happen, and this has all been going on for years with threatened splits. We have our previous coverage and context and Mayor Brown's full letter at KREM.com. Shannon Mowdy, KREM 2 News.
Police arrested Brian Kohberger for the murder of 4 University of Idaho students in December of 2022. His defense team argued it should be delayed after a recent Dateline episode revealed information about the case that wasn't publicly available. Prosecutors argued delaying the trial would not do anything to solve the problem. Judge Stephen Hippler wrote prolonging the trial only creates more media opportunities about the case. This led to the decision to only delay the trial by 7 days, something former Idaho Attorney General David Leroy says is nothing new for this type of case.
So a 1-week delay or adjustment in starting times is not significant for a case that has waited 2.5 years for trial.
Leroy says the 1-week delay, while not significant, is still important in taking the time to select an objective jury.
And because of the high-profile notoriety of the case and the local connections of the case, it indeed may take some time to set a jury.
The judge also ruled the defense cannot use a list of 4 alternative suspects as evidence in the trial, but can use it to cross-examine investigators on the case. Leroy says that decision was a wise one.
Their cross-examination is not foreclosed, but an argument based on suggesting that one or more of any particular individuals may have been an alternative perpetrator will require something much more than the mere suggestion of a name that somebody else lived close by.
With the new trial date set, Leroy says Judge Hippler's rulings in the case are promising a long-awaited trial gets underway sooner than later.
There's an old saying that justice delayed is justice denied, and the defense has had a considerable period of time to get all of its ducks in order and its experts lined up, its understanding of the evidence. And the judge so says in this order about going forward now with only a slight adjustment.
Medicaid touches healthcare in every stage of life for Washingtonians in every corner of our state.
Washington Governor Bob Ferguson, flanked by healthcare workers in Kennewick, taking shots at a federal bill that, if passed, would slash Medicaid funding across the country. A proposal he calls, among other words, harmful.
It will send shockwaves through our entire healthcare system, impacting Washingtonians in every corner of our state, whether they rely on Medicaid or not.
Cuts proposed at a time where many hospitals across the state are grappling with financial challenges. In May, Valley Medical Center said it's down $25 million year to date. That, combined with uncertainty from state and federal budgets, is forcing them to close clinics and lay off staff.
There's too many people on dialysis. So please, Congress, do the right thing. Protect Medicaid so that my brother and my client can have a chance of life.
Some Republicans are defending the cuts. U.S. Republican Congressman Dan Newhouse, who represents the 4th District, claims the cuts will rein in spending, taking to X, saying that 4.8 million able-bodied adults on Medicaid are choosing not to work, adding the cuts will protect the program for those who truly need it. Governor Ferguson responding, calling the statement morally bankrupt.
But, to my mind, these cuts would be cruel, and these cuts, in my view, would be morally wrong for us as a country and for us as a state.
According to the governor's office, 1 in 5 people in Washington state rely on Medicaid, with 60% of the funding coming from the federal government.
As we go to break, here's a check of your weekend forecast. Welcome back to the KREM 2 News Week in Review. Before we get back to this week's headlines, we want to remind you that you can get the latest news and weather forecasts anytime you want on KREM 2 Plus. It's our streaming app you can watch on your TV, and best of all, it's free. We hope you'll check it out, but now let's get back to the weekend review.
Well, Spokane Riverkeeper says it is alarming because PFAS concentrations are 5,000% higher in areas downstream of where this replacement fertilizer is being used.
The Spokane community is no stranger to PFAS contamination.
Just because the water is clear doesn't mean there's not PFAS in it.
Spokane Riverkeeper says they discovered a new problem, a fertilizer replacement called biosolids.
Biosolids are the remnants of our wastewater treatment process.
Washington State's Department of Ecology describes biosolids as a soil amendment that farmers and land managers can use as a replacement of commercial fertilizer. Jewel Schultz with Spokane Riverkeeper says biosolids are rich in phosphorus nitrogen.
And they're an excellent source of relatively cheap fertilizer. However, I think what we didn't realize, or we are realizing too late, is there's a host of other nasties in those biosolids, right? And what we're calling for is to test for PFAS in those biosolids and to not apply them until we know they're safe.
Schultz says they tested multiple locations around the region, including Dragoon Creek in Deer Park, which is one spot where those high concentrations of PFAS were found. He describes, prior to this study, there has not been much testing on the impacts of biosolids.
We need a larger statewide or federal coordination for the removal of PFAS from our waste stream.
And the high contamination of PFAS violates the human health standards for surface water.
Violates the draft human health standard for surface water. And that's really designed to protect people that depend on the river, depend on the fish in the river, and depend on drinking water from our surface water.
Now, Spokane Riverkeeper says there needs to be more state regulation on the impacts of those biosolids, and they're asking community leaders to stop the use of biosolids until further testing can be done. Now, I have reached out to the state's Department of Ecology to get their response, but am still waiting to hear back. I'm reporting here at the Spokane River, Regan Gallo, KREM 2 News.
Yeah, I'm in the 500 block of South McKinnon Road where this all happened early Tuesday morning. It started out as a burglary call, but now Guillermo Gutierrez Ortiz faces charges including resisting arrest and assaulting officers. Now take a look at this. We got this picture from the Spokane County Sheriff's Office showing the suspect on that rooftop where deputies say he assaulted them. This all started when deputies responded to that burglary in progress and say they found Gutierrez Ortiz still inside the home. A neighbor reported seeing him trying to start a fire inside. Deputies say they negotiated with him for more than 30 minutes, saying he at one point yelled out a window that he was there to work on the house and that he didn't have time to deal with law enforcement. Instead, deputies say he then climbed onto the roof. When they followed to arrest him, Gutierrez Ortiz is accused of punching, kicking, and assaulting them.
And in the process of placing handcuffs on you, you assaulted multiple officers.
Yes.
One of the officers, you allegedly bit that person's hand.
Bond was set at $10,000, and the burglary victim reports more than $6,000 in damages to the home, including damage to electrical outlets, a chimney, and an indoor fireplace. Shannon Mowdy, KREM 2 News.
Thank you for watching the KREM 2 News Week in Review. I'm Cody Proctor. It's been a busy week across the Inland Northwest, so let's catch you up on some of the stories you might have missed.
Still no sign of Travis Decker.
What are you going to do next? You're really stuck between a rock and a hard place, no question about it.
The Decker girls were found dead west of Leavenworth in Chelan County after they didn't return from a scheduled visit with their father. The search for him expanded into neighboring Kittitas County.
We really want to catch this guy, and it's got to be incredibly frustrating not to be able to do that, to not know where he is or what's happened to him.
Former King County Sheriff and King 5 law enforcement analyst John Urquhart says the decision by the Kittitas County Sheriff's Office to shift toward recovery mode was likely the right call.
When you're not getting tips, when the dogs can't find him, when the helicopters can't spot him, I think the logical conclusion is either he's dead or he's out of the area.
Investigators say Decker has mountain survival skills and advanced military training, but without concrete evidence, Urquhart says it's hard to keep sending crews into the wilderness.
I really feel for the two sheriffs. They're looking at the resources. They're looking at the money that this is costing. They're looking at what their budget is. But somebody's got to make that tough, hard decision, and I'm sure there's a lot of their officers and detectives out there that don't want to quit. They want to keep looking for this guy. But
without any sign of Decker, there may be no alternative.
This case is going to haunt some of these detectives for a long time, whether they catch him or not.
In the wake of ICE arrests and protests across the city, Spokane City Council members Lily Neveretti and Paul Dillon amended a recent ordinance which authorizes the park director and board to designate portions of park property as non-public areas. This comes after pushback from the park board and city council members. The amendment now only includes right-of-ways. Neveretti says this is a way to expand protections against warrantless immigration arrests. The new version of this ordinance would allow council to designate permitted private events held on public right-of-ways, such as tacos y tequila, as non-public. This means immigration enforcement would need to go through extra steps to make an arrest at an event. In a statement sent to KREM 2 about the ordinance, Neveretti says, "We weren't going to be able to control whether the park board would take advantage of the tool we were creating for them. This option gives council and the administration the ability to use its authority to protect permitted private events."
So I oppose it for
for a number of reasons.
While this new amended ordinance will give control to the council, Councilman Jonathan Bingle still opposes it, saying he thinks this ordinance will have the reverse effect and only put a target in these areas.
I don't think that we should be making it harder for law enforcement to do their jobs. I don't think it's helping to protect anybody that they're trying to protect.
The Safe and Welcome Ordinance is an emergency ordinance, meaning that if it's approved by City Council, it will go into effect immediately, as opposed to waiting the 30 days and needing the mayor's signature.
This Men's Health Month, a local Coeur d'Alene man is feeling a sense of relief and has a second chance at life after what was just a feeling of shortness of breath quickly spiraled into a life-threatening condition.
Dan Christ, a father of 3 and husband, has loved living in Coeur d'Alene for over 20 years.
I enjoy cycling and running, swimming.
But life came to a sudden halt when Dan felt short of breath and something didn't feel right.
We discovered very quickly my resting heart rate was 170.
The American Heart Association says the target heart rate is 60 to 100 beats per minute. Dan's was well above that.
Cardiac sarcoidosis, it forms little granulomas on the heart, which scars the heart. And then that's what interrupts the electrical patterns from firing correctly, which controls your heart rate.
His diagnosis risked cardiac arrest, and even through treatment, he faced the harsh reality of needing a new heart.
And navigating work and how often do I see him and wanting to make it normal for a child that's still at home, and then helping our 2 young adult children that were not at home, navigating this and all their emotions and feelings. So
Dan and his wife Nicole endured 3 long and difficult years of doctor's appointments, medications, and 6 months living at Sacred Heart Medical Center.
Some nurses gave us candles, to enhance our date nights sometimes.
After a long and difficult wait, Dan finally received the life-changing news. He had a match.
I just knew in that moment, even before he put his 2 thumbs up, I knew what it meant. And of course, I just lost it.
Now, he's sharing his story of resilience, hoping to inspire others to become organ donors.
I was acutely aware that the only reason I had a chance at life was there was somebody's life who ended, whose family was grieving and mourning.
Life Center Northwest, who helped Dan find his heart donor, says over 100,000 people need transplants each year across the U.S., but only about 40,000 organs are recovered, leaving a major gap.
Looking back, it's so surreal that we kind of pinch ourselves and think, did that all really even happen?
Again, super grateful that I'm alive, that we can enjoy the things that I've always enjoyed.
Now Dan says he has a lot of life to look forward to, and that includes being active, seeing his children, and traveling across the country. I'm reporting in Coeur d'Alene, Regan Gallo, KREM 2 News.
Before we wrap up this edition of the KREM 2 News Week in Review, we have one more story you might have missed this past week.
There's a big snow patch, and that's her favorite, is snow patches in the summertime.
Nimbus, the white husky seen here, was up for another adventure Saturday with her owner, Katie Warren, who was training for a 100-mile trail run.
Yeah, I messed up, and she's paying for the consequences, and I feel terrible.
Nimbus suffered serious internal injuries Saturday from a puncture wound.
It went through her pancreas, her small intestine, and her bowels, so I don't see any rock doing that.
Warren believes after she let Nimbus off her leash, she ran off and met up with a mountain goat who hit Nimbus with their horns and knocked Nimbus off a 20 to 30 foot tall cliff.
It happened so fast, all of a sudden she was falling. And I thought she was going to be gone. I just went straight to her, and the goat was still kicking rocks down. So on me and her, but thankfully none of them hit me.
While mountain goat encounters are rare in the Pacific Northwest, they do happen. And in 2010, a hiker was killed by a mountain goat in Olympic National Park. The Department of Fish and Wildlife says the mountain goats can be attracted to trails by salty human food, even sweat and urine. So you'll want to hit the trailhead restrooms before going out on a hike. If you encounter a mountain goat, try and maintain a distance of at least 50 yards. Yell, wave your arms, throw rocks if necessary to scare them away. Never offer a goat food, and leave your pets at home if you're going out to an area with goats.
If there's going to be any leakage or anything like that, that's kind of the next hurdle to get through.
While Nimbus slowly recovers, her owner is still upset at herself for letting Nimbus off leash. She hopes what happened serves as a lesson to others.
Just wildlife, it's their habitat, it's their place, and we just got to respect that.
Drew Mickelson, King 5 News.
Thank you for joining us for the KREM 2 News Week in Review. Keep it here for more news and weather updates throughout the weekend. I'm Cody Proctor. Thanks for watching.